Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Evan Michaels. I am an account executive with American Legal Media, and I'm also a former litigation attorney. Specifically, I practiced in New York State for about 15 years, and I had the dual perspective of my career being both in insurance defense as well as plaintiff work. And I've been with ALM now for going on about a year with business development and strategy. And one of the products and services that we offer is called Verdict Search. You can find that at verdictsearch.com, and that's where we're going to be going today. And periodically, I'll offer webinars on different types of topics regarding verdicts and settlements. Today, I'm going to be looking up more unique cases that aren't as high in volume. Not motor vehicle accidents, not slip and falls. When I was practicing, those were run-of-the-mill. Those were the types of cases that I would receive in a red well on my desk on a daily basis. But today we're going to dive in and take a look for some cases that aren't as common, but may have some surprising results. We may see some potential verdicts that are quite high for these types of cases that we wouldn't really expect would get that high. Or different types of factors in society that are now being alleged more often than they were 2 years ago, maybe because of technology or because of culture. So this is me right here. Let me also preface by saying that if you have any questions, we're going to reserve those to the end of this webinar, which should go about 25 minutes to a half an hour. My contact information I'll give out now and at the end of the webinar as well. It's a direct dial of 212-457-1977. 212-457-1977. And my email is emichaels@alm.com. And I believe there's a feature where you can chat to me some questions. But again, since I'm going to be going on a schedule here and has picked out specific search criteria, we don't want to interrupt the flow for everyone. So I'll be looking at those questions at the end. Great. So let's exit from my profile here. There we go. The picture just did not want to leave. And let's go into Verdict Search. So the first search we're going to perform today, this was something that I encountered at a convention. This attorney specialized in bed bugs, believe it or not. He was known as the bed bug attorney. Now, I've never had a bed bug case in my life, but he seemed to be doing quite well. So when I went to Verdict Search, I entered bed bug and bed bug. That way we get both ways of terms can be entered. Now, what we're going to be looking at here are actual reports. This is not scraped information. This is not information that we get from a docket or from a reporter. We get on the phone with the attorneys and we speak to them about the facts, circumstances, the arguments made at trial, the experts, everything by phone. So we have really good information in these reports. So this is actual, what I like to say, why behind the what. Why was this verdict sustained? Why did the defense have a defense verdict? And you'll find these out in these reports. So here we have a bed bug case and an infestation in a resort. This was a settlement in South Carolina. $7,000. Not a huge amount, and that would be my initial thought. Bed bug cases, some rashing, irritation. You know, these aren't going to be massive settlements here for these types of injuries. But now we're starting to see already 7 figures. Infestation not timely addressed resulting in injuries. So we're seeing not only epidermis damage here, but we're seeing mental anguish. So I want to take a look as to why, with a bed bug case, we have $7,000 here in settlement, and how could a bed bug injury get us all the way to almost a $1.6 million verdict just this April? So the system here is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to start out with the amount, the type of verdict, the jurisdiction, just a basic summary. You know, we're all attorneys here, so no need to dive too deep into that. The plaintiff experts, we could also take a look at that. But let's take a look at some of the injuries here, because right now it looks like with the facts from when I've reviewed this, we were looking at a tenancy, a family, and I believe they had a child. Here we are. Jorge was 3. So if a child is suffering injuries from bed bugs that can result in permanent scarring, that's at that young of age, we're starting to see why this verdict was 7 figures. So the injuries here, the plaintiffs claim that the bed bugs were in their beds, furniture, and clothing, latched onto them while they slept, sucked their blood until they were gorged, suffered numerous bites. And I'm just paraphrasing here. And it resulted in a number of outcomes. We're talking both pain, discomfort, but also sleeplessness, anxiety, humiliation over how they looked, emotional distress. The youngest plaintiff, 3 years old, suffered the most bites. And the parents claimed that very extreme, the term's massacred here, very extreme outcome from these bed bugs. Scarring with hyperpigmentation, I don't know if that's permanent or not. Of course, they finally moved. But here we're seeing, in just a few minutes, I was able to locate and educate myself a little bit more on the spectrum here. So just to take a look at the spectrum, we're seeing a $7,000 settlement, and then we're seeing almost a $1.6 million verdict in California. And it's getting even more severe. There's a $3.5 million, and this is a mixed verdict. Now this tells me there's probably multiple tenants in this case that you're seeing tenants. So it may have been, I'm only can surmise here, a whole floor, a number of units, bed bug attack at a hotel, and emotional distress. So I'm seeing that not only are we looking at injuries on the epidermis, but these emotional distress injuries as well are being factored into this. And I'm seeing some pretty high verdicts here. So educating myself on bed bugs, if I were to get a bed bug case, I wouldn't dismiss it. And if I was an insurance defense attorney, which I was for a number of years, I would be very upfront with my adjuster that we really need to take a look at the spectrum here of what we're dealing with respect to injuries. And here, there was a defense verdict. So there we go with bed bugs. But let's go back. And let's take a look at something different. Now, as I said, technology can change the different types of cases that are out there. Cell phones were not paramount to our lives 15, 20 years ago. Drones weren't in the skies 10, 15 years ago. These types of technological advances are now causing different types of accidents. So why don't we narrow this down to a state? We're going to go to Texas. We have a lot of robust reporting there as well. You're seeing the calculations here. We're nearing 40,000 reports in Texas. Let's type in cell phone. Or I doubt anybody would spell it connected, but let's just see what that does to the figure. So that's the same. There. And now let's take a look at the type of case. Let's go to motor vehicle. Do a quick search. Now, there's a lot of results here, but this is something I want to show about doing parameters. Of course, you're seeing the highlighted there. This is a cell phone motor vehicle case. So instead of being ambushed with a lot of different information, wherever you're getting your verdict information, either it's from your own experience, your own records, or another type of source, when you're looking at motor vehicle cases, it's going to be a lot. So if the motor vehicle case has a factor of a cell phone being involved, might behoove you to actually have the ability to take a look at cell phone related MVA cases. Now, as this is 511, what if this was a situation to where a pedestrian was actually struck? I can easily know. And now we're searching and we're getting right to the nitty gritty. We've condensed to 23 results: cell phone, Texas, motor vehicle, pedestrian. So most of these cases are probably going to involve somebody driving, looking, texting, talking, and not keeping a proper lookout for people who are walking along the road. And we do have the defense verdicts in here as well. So this is not all just high numbers that you're seeing with the bed bugs. I want to look at one that's okay. Let's go back up here. Well, here we have the cell phone. And this is a denial of actually who was actually the one involved. Let me go to the first one here. Now here's quite the title: pedestrian who had been drinking fatally struck by a pickup. So if the pedestrian was drinking, was that negligence on their part for not keeping a proper lookout? Were they actually walking in a pedestrian way? Well, $400,000 verdict here. So here you're seeing the facts of the case. So the plaintiff's accident reconstruction expert opined that Burns should have been able to see Will and should have avoided him. He noted that Will was wearing a light-colored shorts and a medium-colored hoodie, and his legs were pale. The plaintiff acknowledged that Will was partially responsible for the incident. He was not keeping a good lookout, and he should have been and had alcohol in his system. But it doesn't look like it was super high. Now, this case, there's probably a cell phone in the car, but I apologize for not leading you to the specific case where the cell phone's basically the main factor for the negligence. But nonetheless, you're seeing how we're returning these and how we're able to quickly condense them from over 500 cases to 23. So you're looking at thousands of MVAs to just cell phones, over 500 to cell phone pedestrians for a little over 23, or at 23. Now, we don't have to just limit ourselves to simple search terms. We can look very broadly as well on new trends. A new trend is reverse discrimination. And what we're going to do is we're going to look up reverse discrimination. We're going to select federal cases only. So we're dealing with those federal statutes. And you can see certain trends. With reverse discrimination, you're going to see a lot of trends for defense verdicts. Now, I wasn't an employment law attorney. I wasn't a discrimination attorney. But from what I can, dust off from my memories of my litigation years, that there's a certain, obviously, burden of proof in a discrimination case, and for a reverse discrimination case, it's being asserted by somebody who I believe is not a protected class. So you'll see a lot of cases where there's somebody who's not a protected class saying they're discriminated against, and there's a certain degree of proof when federal statutes are cited in the case. So let's take a look. I'm going to reset it. I apologize. There we go. Sorry about that. I created a little glitch there by not putting the proper parenthetical. I apologize. So here we have 108 results, and some really good titles here to really help narrow down what types of reverse discrimination cases we're looking for. Here, a sheriff denied a cop was passed over for a job to foster diversity, defense verdict. And here you're seeing the federal statute. County worker alleged she was a victim of reverse discrimination, actually successful. White factory worker asserted reverse racial discrimination, small verdict. Retaliation, race. Here's another defense verdict. Race not a motivating factor in university's promotion decision, defense maintained. Here's another defense verdict. So this is a way of taking a look really quickly when you have a case that is, in this case, in the reverse. If you're dealing with a lot of discrimination cases for people who are minorities, for gender, and then you're, considering a client, or if you're on the insurance side and you have an insured that's dealing with a reverse discrimination allegation, right here we're seeing that spectrum is tilted, at least in verdict search, to a lot of defense verdicts. And that's telling me it's just because of the types of proof you're going to need in these types of cases. White Hospital employee claimed race discrimination. That's a $200,000 settlement. Okay. The facts are really tightly written, which is nice. Looks like there's an allegation of harassment for a number of years, referring to his race, the amount of times that was referred to, derogatory information by the hospital employees. Reported the harassment, but nothing was done. Arguing that the hospital documents showed that the hospital was aware of the ongoing discrimination. That's always something that pops out with HR. Awareness, ongoing activity, and doing nothing to address it. Defense said he didn't file a complaint with the hospital, and he was simply disgruntled. I see this all the time in reverse discrimination cases. No report, disgruntled. We let this individual go. They were underperforming. And you see that in some of the defense arguments in new cases as well, with gender identity and so forth. We have a lot of those in California, and I'm seeing that. And there have been some defense verdicts successful in gender identity claims saying this person is just disgruntled. But in this case, there was an evaluation for $82,000, so that's really good. You get to see the pre-trial figures that were presented by the defense to settle out the claim. And there was a $2,000 settlement. So just want to keep breezing through here. We're going to do one more case that's not the type that I was used to in my practice days, and maybe something that's not very common. Now this goes into Airbnb and so forth. They're everywhere. Now these cases are very new, so I anticipate research like VertiSearch will have this in the near future, having more reports like this. But let's just go straight to what is happening with these Airbnbs. Hidden camera. Now, most of what we have on hidden camera is going to be landlord-tenant, typically the landlord saying it's for safety and security, where the tenants or the individuals who were surveyed are going to claim humiliation, emotional distress for having their privacy violated. So this was a messy one, a divorced couple with hidden cameras. We're not going to go down that wormhole right now. This one was a commercial dispute. So in the negative, you can actually weed through these cases pretty quickly because this is a commercial dispute. There was a camera involved, but it really had to involve other types of commercial claims. So we can just discount this one right away. Now you're seeing it. Tenant alleged damages from landlord's hidden camera. Almost a $500,000 verdict in Florida. Here we go. Broward County. Okay. So this was, I believe, a tenant or had a private room in the home. Yes. Okay. This is my recollection is being refreshed. This is a tenant who had a private room in a home. This individual had a hidden camera that I believe connected straight to his DVD player. Don't ask me how he homebrewed that one. So obviously, if she's being, you can read the facts right here. If she's being viewed, right here I have to say what it is for his own viewing pleasure. There's going to be definitely some serious allegations out of that. So she claimed emotional distress, invasion of privacy due to the voyeurism and so forth. And the jury returned nearly $500,000. The defense claims there was no real damage here. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of these now with the amount of times, with the Airbnb, we're going to be seeing a lot more cases like these. What's going to be interesting is the amount of time somebody spends in an Airbnb is very short. This could have been weeks, months that she was in this room. Same with any tenant. So with the brevity of time, will they actually catch the camera? With only being in a place for a night or two, you can look around all you want, but you may not find that camera as opposed to somebody who's been there for 6 months to a year. Also, the length of time spent, what does that affect the actual amount of damages? How much more emotionally distraught is somebody who has been watched for 6 months as opposed to somebody who may or may not have been viewed for a few minutes in one evening renting a place? So before we end here, I want to just take a look at one other item. Now, this is not scripted. I want to see if a very unique type of injury is in here. When I was litigating, one of the bigger cases we had was an industrial case where an individual, female, older, was injured in the line of work, suffered severe nerve damage allegedly, and the nerve damage was something called RSD. If you're unfamiliar, go to Google and look up RSD, nerve RSD injuries. This injury type is so severe that you shouldn't have any, at least that's what the court was saying, any range of motion in the affected limb or digit. Zero. She was traced by the defense counsel. They caught her sitting on her front porch, handling something. It had, her right arm had the RSD. She literally moved the finger, and I'm not exaggerating, probably a half an inch. It just shows it couldn't have been more than an inch, maybe a half an inch. That was enough to dismiss the case for the RSD. It was almost like a wind blew her finger, dismissed, because if the RSD is that severe, you don't have that range of motion. So here we have 450 cases with RSD. Now, some of these may not be RSD. There may be initials or something of that nature. But this is a great way of seeing more severe, rare types of injuries. So there you go, reflex sympathy dystrophy. This is a slip and fall defense. This is a surgery case, but that includes wrongful death. So that's not exactly where we're going. There's RSD. Nerve damage was known. So this is always where a good defense attorney can go, is that this injury was pre-existing. And in this case, we're seeing a defense verdict based on pre-existing injuries. You're seeing the RSD, the hip replacement that led to RSD. So failure to treat, it's a known complication. So very different than the RSD that I had. But nonetheless, I was able to retrieve some of these cases, and that was a pleasant to see. So I'm going to take a look now to see if there's any questions. I see some questions here. And that question box is really small. Let me see if I can open that up. Okay, bear with me. I think I can read this. We're going to conclude in about 5 minutes, so I'll conclude with my information one more time. Okay, one question. What is the coverage by state jurisdiction? Good question. I'll show that. Also, can you pull analytics off of the individual verdict reports? Let me start with the latter. Yes, we can do a verdict pull. I do these all the time for attorneys and insurance companies. Last week, I had a top plaintiff attorney in Texas who had a quadriplegic case. He wanted all quadriplegic cases, all of them. Defense, plaintiff verdict, mixed verdict settlement in Texas for the past 20 years in the top 5 nationally. I was able to pull that for him in the same day, and he was equipped with enormous amount of information to really go full force on that claim. I have insurance companies by state, by jurisdiction. We can pull and customize information. If you want all the motor vehicle cases in California for the past 10 years, we can do that. If you're looking for certain experts, we can pull those experts. So maybe just since some of the that relates to functionability, in a data pull can be by jurisdiction. So here we're going to go to my home state of New York. And I apologize, when we did reverse discrimination, we got I didn't do federal only. Here's where you'll see all state courts, all federal courts. And in New York City, 5 boroughs, each one of those boroughs acts like a different country. That's how different they are. The Bronx, different than Manhattan, different than King, different than Queens. But nonetheless, I can go through and click New York County, and you're seeing Bronx in New York County, you're seeing an auto population there of how many reports are there. So this is a great way of vetting. If you know your state well, you know that, and I don't mean this in a political sense, I mean this in the amount of awards. By going to jurisdiction, Oakland County is going to be very different than San Francisco. Dallas is going to be different than the surrounding counties. When you go to Pennsylvania, it's night and day. Philadelphia is very different than Lancaster. So that's also an excellent way of getting your ranges. So I know we're looking at unique cases today, but you can see here with the functionality, and I didn't want to get into too much of functionality. I just wanted to show you some interesting case trends that are out there. Verdict search can certainly provide that. So you're getting the ranges in the proper jurisdiction with the proper jury demographics that you'll be facing. Okay, great. So thank you so much. Again, my name's Evan Michaels. Let's see if I can pull my little mug back up here again. There I am. Let me see if I can pull the thank you. Okay. There you go. So I appreciate you first joining this webinar. Just to do me a favor, take down my information. I'm happy to answer any questions about verdict search. Again, it's my direct dial 212-457-1977 on Eastern Standard Time in New York City. There's my email, emichaels@alm.com. To also mention, I handle all different products and services for ALM. It's a big family of legal media. Very proud of it. If you go to law.com, you can see all of our publications. Verdict search is a part of law.com and our publications nationwide. We also are unveiling a lot of new tools and competitive advantages for attorneys and law firms. So don't hesitate to contact me. I would love to keep you on the forefront of the competitive and insightful tools and intelligence that only ALM can provide. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of Thursday. Enjoy your Friday. And for those of us up in the north, spring is soon. So thank you. Have a good rest of your day.